Welcome back, fight fans. We're back after quite a card, honestly. UFC 280. So we're going to open by talking about that, of course. Then we're going to be talking about, actually, yeah, road. I was going to say this week's card, but actually, after that, then we're going to be talking about Road to UFC, which was on Sunday, which was amazing. It was really cool to see those semifinals. A lot of unexpected results, just like the first round. I was pretty surprised, but I was entertained. Quite the show. I really love that tournament style of things. I really hope that they make even more of them in the future. As I think I even said this last time, I would assume they're probably going to eventually do the same thing in Africa. It kind of just makes sense. Then the African countries get that same kind of hype behind some of their athletes. That would be really cool to see, like we're seeing with, especially now with Korea and China. And then of course now we've got a representative from Indonesia and India in the finals, which is super, super cool to see. So, I mean, I'd like to see that in other continents as well. And I'm sure that they're going to do that eventually. Anyway, enough of that one. Then we're going to be talking about this week's card. Oh, there's something in my eye. Then we're going to be talking about this week's card, UFC Vegas 63. We're back in Vegas again. And with the main event's pretty good. I gotta say, not really great on the rest of the card. It should still be interesting. There's always some good fights in every card, don't get me wrong, but we actually opened the week with 9 fights on the card. A couple more were added, so we're at 11 now. I mean, it's Wednesday, so who knows what's going to happen. But that's where we're sitting at right now. Eh, you know, Definitely not one of the better cards recently on paper, at least. But you never know. There's always some good action on every single card. Speaking of which, we will now, of course, start talking about UFC 280. That was, of course, last week, and amazing, amazing card. I don't know what people are complaining about, honestly. I really don't. People are complaining like, oh, the card wasn't as good as it should have been, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, I don't know what you're talking about. I had a great time. It was quite the card. Obviously, a little bit disappointed by the main event, just a little bit, but still extremely entertaining card. I don't know what all these people are talking about. I don't know. So we're gonna open up with the first fight. That was Carol Hosa and Lena Landsberg. Definitely thought this was gonna be way more in favor of Carol Hosa, but of course there was a point deduction in there that made it a lot closer, making it a majority decision instead of the unanimous decision. Still, that being said, I thought it was still going to be a unanimous decision because I really didn't think that it was. Yeah, wasn't really sure it was completely all that close. But the first round, I believe it was the first round. Again, we're going to be trying to cut all these things down so we don't take too long. It was definitely closer, and Landsberg was doing well against the fence. Oh, right, of course, the knockdown from Landsberg, that dropped Hosa on her back. I mean, that was kind of really one of her only moments of the entire fight. But um, yeah, when you get a knockdown like that, I gotta say that could definitely go into your favor. And I do actually remember, yes, I did actually score it as a tie specifically because of that. The first round I gave to Landsberg because the knockdown, you got it. It's all about the damage. Remember that. It's all about the damage. So, I was giving I thought something changed here. I thought that something changed on my screen. I gave Landsberg the opening round because of that knockdown. So for me, this was actually a 28-28 tie because of the point that was taken away with the hard illegal knee. Right, right, yeah, yeah. I was trying to remember what the point deduction was for. Um, Landsberg was grounded, and then Carol Hosa landed that knee, which was significant. I mean, Landsberg played it off and said, I feel completely fine. But it did definitely seem kind of hard. I don't really know. I don't know. It's up to the ref, of course, at that point. Like, do you think Landsberg was hugely affected by that? If yes, then you take the point. Clearly, he thought that yes, so he took the point. I wasn't really sure, but I'm not against it. I mean, you can't be throwing stuff like that. I mean, she was clearly down. You can't really do something like that. So, I mean, I guess really kind of the point was justified there. Um so yeah, in the end, I had it at 28-28, but two of the judges did not agree and they had it 29-27, 29-27, and 28-28. You know, I don't know. It was a little bit of a weird one, like I said, because you got to think when there's that knockdown in the first, it's a pretty big moment in a round. It's obviously the most damage in the round. I think that was the most fair way of scoring it, but hey, I'm not a judge here, so whatever. But I will say I do think that Kirilosa clearly won the fight. So I mean, I'm not mad by the outcome, but if you're scoring it properly, I would probably say that it should have been 28-28. So it's a little bit of a weird one. Do you want to score the fight properly, or do you want the actual person who won the fight to win the fight? It's weird when you get into those situations like that. The first prelim that I talked about in the last stream, the second fight of the night, though, Muhammad Mokaev, Malcolm Gordon. I think I was pretty much the same as everybody else, thinking that this was going to be a lot more one-sided than it was. Um, I I don't want to say that Mokaev was losing, but it was there were definitely some moments for Gordon in there that made you question why he was such a huge favorite at minus 1200, I believe it was. Yeah, so Gordon did have his moments, which kind of made you wonder a little bit about where Mokaev is at. I mean, do I think that he was in danger of losing at all? No, not really. But I mean, when you when you think, he's well, actually, he is in the top 15 now. He is in 15th. So when you consider, okay, he's supposed to be in the top 15, he's supposed to be making this title run, supposedly, you know, uh, and him could be in the running for rookie of the year too. You expect more than that, and I think that's kind of where all the, I wouldn't say hate, but all of the comments online and even by the commentators themselves, I think that's obviously where that's coming, and even by me, of course. You know, was it a dominant performance? Most of the time, yeah. I mean, he was clearly out grappling him. He clearly didn't have cardio issues. It was really just that he was letting Gordon get away with a lot of things that he shouldn't have been getting away with on the ground. And that's really all it is. I mean, Mokaev, I wouldn't say was getting careless, but he even said himself he wasn't necessarily taking him seriously. And I think that was kind of really that was the problem. And he admitted it himself. But you can't be doing that. It's a good excuse because it's true. But again, in the end, you can't be doing that. That's really all it comes down to. You have to take every single person seriously because they're there for a reason, and you've got to actually win the fight. You're not going to be winning ranked fights like that. You've got to actually do something to deserve the win. And that's not, he just didn't do that in this fight. So, little disappointing. And also a little bit concerning when you're making all those comments and then coming in there and not really performing the way that we would all expect you to perform, and the way that you yourself expect you to perform. But he did end up getting the submission, but it was really late in the third round, and he was kind of losing some moments here and there. So I don't know. And I even wrote it down here. He's been calling for top 10 guys trying to be the youngest champ in UFC history. He's said that over and over again. But I mean, he's obviously just not there yet. And I don't have a problem with it. I like him. I like him as an athlete, as a person, everything. And as a fighter, I think he's very, very talented. But you're not going to beat somebody in the top 10 like that. That's just true. So, I don't think that he's at that point yet. I think that's pretty clear. That's what we've seen in this last matchup specifically. He's just not there yet for somebody in the top 10. But, edge of the top 15, somewhere like 10 to 15, maybe that's what's next for him. Or maybe they give him another person outside of the rankings to really prove that he can make a statement. Because if he's just winning these meh kind of decisions, are you going to be giving him somebody in the top 10? No, not in flyweight. They're just too good. You're not going to be doing that. So I don't think he's going to be the youngest champ in UFC history. I don't think so. But could he be the champ at some point? 100% yes. I am very much sold on that part of the idea for sure. I am definitely sold on that. He's just not there yet. That's all I'm saying. He's got to work his way into that, especially the fight IQ part of it and the mentality that you got to take people seriously and you got to go for finishes all the time too. Anyway, still impressive prospect, but not the greatest performance on that kind of stage. After that, Armen Petrosyan, AJ Dobson. I don't know. This is exactly what I expected. I mean, I thought Petrosyan was going to kind of walk away with this, kind of dominate this. I thought he was probably going to do a little bit more damage, let's say. But I mean, based on the activity alone, it really wasn't that close. It was it was the same thing for pretty much the entire matchup. I mean, Petrosyan was landing pretty much what I wouldn't even say he was landing like huge shots or anything. He was just more active, throwing out more, and yes, landing more, but they weren't like huge shots, but they were doing something and it was still activity. That's kind of what he was doing up to the point where he had landed over 100 strikes more than Dobson, actually doubling the output of Dobson. So clearly the output was there, and that is and what ended up winning him the decision there. I mean, I didn't think he was going to get a finish, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I mean, he still doubled the output of Dobson. So what can you say? I mean, he clearly won the fight based on that alone. And you love to see that activity. After that, Abubakar Nurmagomedov, which is Khabib's cousin, of course, and then against Gaji Omar Gajiev, definitely the longest matchup name of the night for sure. I don't even know how many letters are in both of their names, but it's significant. I kind of thought going into this, Abubakar probably going to win. I mean, I don't want to say that they're giving people from that region, especially with that name, some favorable matchups, but you kind of expect that they are going to get a little bit of a special kind of treatment, just a little bit, just to get kind of some somewhat favorable matchups in there. So I figured he was going to walk away with the win. It was, it was still pretty close though. It wasn't a runaway by any means, that's for sure. Gaji was doing well to take him down actually a couple of times. But I don't know why you would try and do that when you know that he's related to Khabib. So clearly he's been, Khabib helps him out and trains him and all that down on the ground. So that seems like a slightly bizarre choice, and it didn't work out in his favor. And then we actually saw another illegal knee. Amazingly, same ref and did not take points away in this one. I don't think it actually deserved to be a point taken away anyway. So I actually agreed with both cases. The commentators were a little bit sketchy about that one because they thought, well, if you took it away for the women there in the first fight, if you're the same ref, you should be consistent in taking it away in this one too. He didn't. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, personally, I wouldn't have taken it away here either. It wasn't as hard, and it didn't seem to affect anything, but still, I guess they're saying consistency, you should be taking it away. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have too much to say about that other than I probably wouldn't have taken one away either. But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good fight. I don't know. It was pretty close. Really, the only thing that won Abubakar the fight, he was a lot fresher coming into the last round. I mean, I thought it was. Did I say it was tied? It was pretty close. Yeah, I said Abubakar the first round, and Abubakar actually the second round too. And I think even the third round. I had it. Yeah, I had all 3 rounds. The judges ended up scoring it 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27 though. It was a lot of that control time again. But when Gaji, isn't doing much damage at all, you kind of again you got to go with that control time once again. Yeah. Next up, Nikita Krylov, Volkan Oezdemir. I didn't really know what to think going into this. I mean, they're both kind of inconsistent. They're both also pretty good, though. I don't know. They're both in that weird kind of spot where they're not necessarily, they they're in like 10 to 15 range on the rankings, I would say, which is a weird spot to be in when you're there all the time because it's like you end up beating people that aren't good, and then you get destroyed by people that are actually really good. So, when you've got 2 people like that going against each other, who knows what's going to happen? It's completely unpredictable at that point. I had Oezdemir just because I thought he was probably going to be better going into it and more power. I don't know though. I don't know. I think he actually did have that. It was just he kind of just didn't have the cardio by the end of the fight. That was kind of the only thing that ended up happening, really. He looked great at the start and then kind of fell apart as it went on. With Krylov just kind of dominating in the last round. I thought it was tied going into the last round there, and Oezdemir just kind of slowed down the last 2 rounds. I think that was kind of it. I mean, it's tough to see that especially when you pick the person for them to dominate the first round and then fall apart the last 2. But that's what happened. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if either one of them is really ever gonna make one of those huge runs. Like they're not in that Ankalaev, Smith, even Jailton Almeida. They're not. Neither one of these guys is in that kind of realm where they're going to be making that push up the rankings. So they're kind of those people where you don't really know what they're going to do, making for very unpredictable bets, which I guess makes for very good betting lines. That's for sure. You can make some profit. That's for sure if you're right. Anyway, second one that I had talked about last time, Caio Borralho, Mahmoud Muradov. I knew this was going to be really good. I mean, and I figured Borralho was going to do pretty well here. I actually thought he was going to get a finish because of his huge advantage on the ground, but I wasn't sure. I mean, Muradov is so good. He is so good and massive, by the way, too. So I didn't really know fully how this was going to go, but I did kind of figure Borralho would probably have the advantage on the ground because that's what he is. He's just a machine on the ground. Unbelievable. Did start off slow, and then Muradov. Well, I don't really want to. We're trying to stay away from these exact fight recaps. By the way, I'm going to be switching how I'm going to be doing this next week because I'm not doing the articles after anymore. So I think it's going to flow a lot better starting next week, just because the post ones will be geared way more towards how I'm going to be explaining how the fight went. Because right now I'm kind of looking at the exact details of the fight that I wrote down for the article. I'm basically just reading the article and then kind of giving generalizations after, which of course means that I might be getting not necessarily getting things wrong too much, but I have to read and it slows us down a little bit. So that'll be fixed up next week and a lot smoother moving on. But yeah, this week we're still going with a slightly more inefficient way of doing it that I probably should have fixed earlier. Anyway, outside of the behind the scenes part. Anyway, moving back. The judges did end up scoring at 30-27, 30-27, and 29-28 for Bojalio. So they did see it somewhat dominantly in that direction. I did too, but especially the first round wasn't really clear who got it on the cards because yeah, it was pretty close. That's right. I even had it where I actually kind of thought I was scoring at Muradov possibly might have been up 2 rounds. I really did. It was really close. It seemed tied or that Muradov was up. That's kind of how I had it going into the final round. So I guess I probably was more likely going to score at 29-28 for Bojalio, but I could have really seen a judge going in the opposite direction. So when they said 30-27, I mean, yeah, it could have gone either way, but I don't know. I was leaning more towards the other direction a little bit. Again, though, I think Bojalio still deserves it and deserves all the kind of credit because I mean, I genuinely think he is really shaping up to be Rookie of the Year. He is so close. Him and Jailton Almeida. I really do think that it's just between those two. I mean, I think they've both got 3 wins now, or maybe Almeida's got 2 and Caio has 3. I'm not really sure how it's working out. I don't know which way I'm going to go with it. I'm still not sure. I mean, we've still got a couple months to go too, so we could even see one of them come back a third or a fourth, another time to see how it's going. But yeah, Caio Bojalio is still very much in the running for Rookie of the Year. I mean, this one was a lot closer of a fight, but I mean, I think, even the commentators said it themselves. This could be a future matchup that we see for a title or even, title contention later on because these two really, really are that good. They really, really are. And I mean, for Bojalio specifically, though, I think you got to be seeing somebody in the top 15 next. You gotta. I mean, really, especially at middleweight. I think this is middleweight. I think 185. I think it is. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was at middleweight. If it is, I mean, there's really not a whole lot of people in middleweight right now. So, I mean, a top 15, that would make so much sense for Bojalio. I mean, you got to do that next, especially, like I said, was it 3 wins in 1 year now? Pretty dominant, I would say, except for this one was definitely a lot closer, but still, Muradov, we kind of thought was also going to be in the top 15 soon. So yeah, I think that's what we're seeing next for him. And I'm so excited about that guy. My God, Bojalio, so good. And I don't know why people are not talking about this guy. I've been talking about him all year long since actually the Contender Series. We saw him on there. I said how good this guy was every single time. And I just don't see him being talked about. Like, why are we not talking about giving him these ranked opponents? Why is he not in the media at all? And nobody's talking about this guy. I just don't understand. He's just so talented. And it's the same thing with Almeida. I don't hear anything about the guy. Nobody talks about him. And he's destroying these guys. Clearly should be in the top 15. I just don't know what these people are thinking. I don't know. Anyway, then we had the first huge shock of the night, I would say. Belal Muhammad and Sean Brady. I'm not saying I was necessarily surprised by Belal winning this, maybe a little bit surprised, but I think everybody was surprised about the knockout part of it. I don't think anybody was surprised. I mean, I don't think anybody was really expecting Belal to get a TKO in this fight. That being said, I think the stoppage was like 10, 20 seconds too early. I think he definitely could have kept going because Brady was kind of like, why'd you just stop that man? Like, he was still standing up, he was still fighting back. He was still standing. He was still standing and fighting back. I don't know. It was a little weird of a stoppage to me. That being said, I don't really think it was going to get much better. you know, how much longer was he going to last? I don't know. I mean, maybe he could have kept going. He's a really tough guy, so I'm sure he could have kept going until the end of the round and maybe even the third round and all that. I think he could have kept going for quite a bit longer, but was he going to end up winning that fight? I can't really say that. I mean, I'm pretty sure Belal was going to be winning anyway. But stoppage aside, I mean, Belal, I think you got to give the guy more credit now. I definitely do. Um, yeah, I thought Brady was just gonna. I didn't think he was gonna just smoke him. I thought this was gonna be pretty close, but I definitely thought that Brady was gonna be the better grappler because he's so much bigger. I mean, I thought he was gonna. Well, yeah, he was definitely bigger in there for sure. I definitely thought the grappling was going to be a bigger part of the game plan for Brady. I thought he was going to win that part. And I also thought he was going to be better on the feet. But Belal, I forget who he was training with. I think he actually might have been, yeah, he was training with Khabib actually. So, I mean, I don't know if that's what made the difference, but he looked way better than I've ever seen him. I mean, this is like peak Belal right now. I mean, I'm genuinely impressed to the point where I actually gave him the KO bonus. I mean, really, there were only 2 KOs on the card, him and Aljo. So I mean, I wasn't going to give Aljo a KO bonus for what he did. I mean, it was really a ground effort more than anything. So I think that would have been unfair. But yeah, I mean, I think unless you're seeing some like lights out knockout on the card, I think Belal was going to get the bonus anyway. I'm just so impressed. I mean, Sean Brady was undefeated going into this. You got to remember that too. So yeah, I mean, I could not be more impressed by Belal right now. That was seriously, seriously impressive. But he's in a strange situation as he usually is because he consistently beats ranked people, but he's also only fighting people below him, which is strange. But I also think that that's probably what's going to happen to him in his next matchup, too. I hate to say it, but I mean, look at what we've got here for the next matchups for the top 5, all the people above him. I mean, Usman and Edwards, that seems to be the clear choice. We're probably doing that in London or wherever in the in some kind of arena, whatever we're doing. That seems to be what we're doing with that. And then you've got Covington possibly going against Chimaev. That seems to be the direction we're heading. I don't, that hasn't, neither one of those has been confirmed, but that seems to be where we're going with that, which means really that only leaves, who is the last person? Yeah. The only other person that leaves is Burns, which is okay. I mean, that's totally fine. I could see that getting going. But yeah, I don't know. And I mean, you're not going to give him a title shot. Like, I'm sorry, but you're not getting the title shot. I mean, just think about that for a second, because if Chimaev and Covington are fighting, you're going to give Belal a title shot over Covington and Chimaev? No, you're not. No way in hell you're going to do that. So, and then you've got Edwards and Usman fighting next for that title. So it's kind of like if you're waiting, you've got to wait basically an entire year or more. And then you're kind of in that realm where they're not going to pick you anyway because you don't have a big win and somebody else is going to get a big win ahead of you. So again, you're kind of in that same scenario once again. So, either he goes against Burns and beats Burns and then eventually gets a title shot, or maybe you see him fight, I don't know. Like, he's just in a weird spot. Unless, of course, he fights somebody below him in the rankings again, in which case you're in the exact same scenario that we find ourselves in now. So, like I said, it's just a bizarre situation for him to be in. And yeah, that would be the worst possible situation to be in right now, I would say. Horrible position to be in. And that's just classic Belal. Classic Belal. Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen with him there, but it's until we see what happens with those other two matchups, we will have no idea. Main card. Caitlin Chookagian, Manon Fiorot. I was picking Fiorot on this one. I think Chookagian's just kind of not at that level anymore. I think we especially saw that, like I said, in the last one against Amanda Ribas, because Amanda Ribas is coming up from 115 and she absolutely dominated Chookagian and somehow lost the fight. I still don't know what happened with that on the cards. I think that was kind of absurd. Excuse me. So, when you're going against somebody who's normally smaller, you gotta go with somebody. I mean, Fiorot, I don't even know how she makes it down to 125. I actually, not gonna lie, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, 135. And then I was like, wait a sec, no, Chookagian's at 125. What's happening here? Because Fiorot is so big that she really should be fighting at 135. And the craziest part of this is that Chookagian was the one that missed weight this weekend. I mean, that's terrible. And it's crazy because then when you watch them, Fiorot was still the much bigger person in the ring, in the octagon. So it's like Chookagian was the one that missed weight, but she was the one who looked smaller, who was smaller in the cage. How do you fuck that up? My God. So yeah, not looking good for Chookagian at all. And I mean, as soon as you heard that she missed weight, I mean, then it was really pushing that in favor of Fiorot in this case. I mean, sometimes you're like, okay, I see what they're doing, but this time it was like, no, you're not. That's not a good look in this case. It's not good, not good. So yeah, pretty clear choice in Fiorot here. And I mean, that's pretty much what happened the entire fight. I mean, Fiorot was landing pretty well. Chookagian kind of missing most of, she wasn't really that accurate early. Fiorot clearly won the first round. Second round, I mean, it was even, but it was in terms of the potential output there. But I mean, Fiorot was just landing, and Chookagian maybe not so much, especially with Fiorot walking forwards the whole time and having extra power on her shots. And then where was it? Oh, I did actually have it 29-28. I must have been the second round that it was that close, because the judges did agree scoring at 29-28. Like I said, I'm going to be taking better notes next week. I swear. This is the last time this is going to be like this. And then with a win over, oh yeah, what happened in there? I mean, what's next for them? I would say, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. I don't know if the UFC is going to do this or not, but I mean, I think it's really the only fair way to move forward. I mean, Chookagian was the number one contender. So, I mean, clearly Fiorot is up there now. I actually didn't look at the rankings. I should have, but I did not. That being said, I mean, I think it's pretty clear what has to happen anyway. I mean, if Tyler Santos doesn't get a title shot, a rematch, what are we doing here? Like, she, I mean, she clearly, I think a lot of people think that she won that fight against Shevchenko. I've heard a couple other commentators that, a couple of commentators in the UFC say that too. I think I heard DC say that as well. I thought it was pretty clear. There were a couple of fighters too that were saying that. I can't remember the names, but I do remember seeing videos of people saying, honestly, I think it was pretty obvious that Santos won the fight. I agree. I think it was obvious too, but whatever. So, I mean, how do you not do that rematch when it was close enough that people are questioning it? And it's the only time that Shevchenko has even really looked like she's going to lose in that weight class. Um, and then after that, whoever wins, would then go against Fiorot. Fiorot would get the next title shot after Santos. Whoever wins, Fiorot should be next. And I don't really know how you can argue that because, I mean, Fiorot has easily beaten every single other person she's gone against in the division. Santos just lost the title shot. So, I mean, I don't think there's really any way other to go. You got to make the rematch and then you got to do Fiorot. I think it's pretty simple. And if you don't do the rematch, I don't know who else you would be throwing at Shevchenko other than Manon Fiorot. I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious. I don't know. I think that's the only real way to go here. Then we had another surprise, I would say. I mean, I was pretty shocked by this because I knew how good Gamrot. I know how good he is. I don't know if this was maybe a fight IQ kind of issue. I don't know what was going on here, but yeah, I don't know. I was just shocked. Beneil Dariush and Mateusz Gamrot. I thought for sure Gamrot was going to be getting a finish here, especially on the ground because he is so much better. He is easily one of the best grapplers in the entire division, which is a lot to say when you're talking about the lightweights. There's a lot of good grapplers, but I would say he is probably the second best behind Islam, except for maybe, I mean, Sarukian is incredible too. But yeah, so I was shocked, really. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, Gamrot, I mean, clearly won the first round on the cards. Dominated really the entire time, with the grappling especially. So I mean, I think the first round was pretty clear. The second round, though, Dariush came in looking much better and started to shut down those takedowns and then get his striking going. And then that's kind of what started it for him. I mean, the second round, I thought it was pretty clearly tied because of that. And then in the third round, Gamrot came in hard, knew he was down on, I mean, he was tied at least. And then running for a heel hook of all things. And then Dariush shot it down, countered him with a head kick, and yeah, got a knockdown. Got a massive, massive knockdown, like huge out of nowhere, really. Just a massive, massive knockdown. And that's kind of what won him that round, and that was it. Yeah. I don't know. It was a weird it was kind of a weird fight. Now that I think about it, it was kind of a weird fight if you think about it like that. Um yeah, I don't know. I was just shocked because Gamrot has been doing so well against all these strikers that I was just completely blown away, to be honest, that Dariush did that. I don't know. I don't know if maybe Gamrot was having an off night or Dariush is just that good. I don't know. I don't know. I was confused actually when I was watching. I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." But yeah. Anyway, what's next for them? Like I said, I was blown away by Dariush's performance. I really was. Even more blown away by the his speech. We're not going to go into that. That was an interesting choice. But yeah, we're not going to get into that anyway. What's next though? I mean, I think we've still got to see what's going on with Chandler and Poirier in November, because I think that's kind of probably the direction you're going in. Because clearly we're talking about, and we're going to be talking about this with the title fight, of course, too. But Volkanovski is obviously the next title contender, which means we're not seeing a contender after that for at least a few months after that, which means probably Dariush is going to be fighting the winner of Poirier Chandler, and then whoever wins that could be getting a title shot. I mean, Charles is also obviously still in that conversation because I mean he dominated everybody else. So how do you not give him a chance at making his way back into the title conversation too. Like there's so many. I mean, lightweight is crazy now with all of these things going on, especially now that this has all happened. Yeah, so just we definitely just need to see how, especially Poirier Chandler, we need to see how that unfolds, and then we'll get a better idea of what to do outside of the title shot, because we already know who the title shot is going to be against, when it is. Perth, Australia, of course, Islam and Volkanovski. And that's in, I think it was March, April, I can't remember. Anyway, they already scheduled it, so it's already a thing. Anyway, Petr Yan, Sean O'Malley. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say about this one. I mean, I I said last week, I was like, don't be surprised if Suga gets a knockout. I was seriously, and I mean, now you see why. I feel honestly completely vindicated, really, because I've been saying this whole time how good Suga actually is, and that nobody was really taking him seriously in this. And I said if Jan didn't take him seriously, he was going to lose and he was going to get knocked out. I'm glad that he took it seriously, because I think clearly at this point I would have been right. He would have gotten knocked out if he wasn't paying attention. I think that's more clear now than ever. But yeah, the first round. And this is the round that it came down to on the judges' cards. And I think that's, you can have arguments here all day, really. That's kind of what had happened here in the first round, because I don't think you can really argue the second and third rounds. I think that was pretty obvious. The second round, I mean, what happened in the second round here? Yeah, Jan, that's where Jan was. Was that it? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the second round. So the second round, um, that was definitely Jan's round. I mean, he controlled him quite a bit, quite a bit, quite a bit. And yeah, he did get stumbled. Jan did get stumbled by Suga, but I think again, everybody kind of agreed that second round was Jan, third round was Suga. Because I mean, really, the third round, that was the most obvious one. That wasn't even close. He Suga just absolutely destroyed Jan in the third, really. I mean, that's where you started seeing all the blood, the wobbles and all that kind of stuff. That was clearly Suga's round on the cards. But yeah, the first round is where we had a lot of disagreements. And I really am on the side of Jan on this. I thought because I had scored it that way too. But I mean, let's not use the word robbery. I honestly don't think it was a robbery per se. I do think it was really close. I even watched it again. I don't normally even do that. I don't normally watch it a second time within, before the span of, in between then and the show now. I don't normally do that, but I did do that in this case. And I don't know. I did start to see for sure why they would have given it to O'Malley, and it is because of that damage. He was landing on the feet quite a bit, and what they're saying is that Jan did not do that damage. Yes, he took Suga down, and he did do that, but O'Malley was more active on the feet, and then he also actually, as the round closed, took Jan's back and was about to be doing some crazy things down there. So, I do see where the judges were coming from on that. But visually speaking, if you're talking about it visually, I think it was pretty clear, 29-28 for Jan. But I 100%, if you're going by the criteria, if you're going by the scoring criteria, even now that I've actually explained that out, even to myself here, it actually does make a lot more sense that Suga won the fight, because you're talking about damage. And we've discussed this. We've been discussing this for months now. That's supposed to be the main criteria. And if O'Malley is damaging you enough to turn into a wrestler that first round, you maybe think that he did more damage. I don't know. I do see where the judges are coming from on that. So, if you're going by the criteria, I kind of understand what was happening there with 29-28 for Suga. That being said, I don't know. Like I said, it was kind of one of those visual ones where it's like when you're watching it, especially as a fan, and even the fighters, they understand how obviously they understand how fights are going. So I totally see why they would have scored it that way, but that's not the judging criteria. And that's kind of that dichotomy. You're kind of in that where the scoring criteria might not actually be representative of what's happening in the fight visually. That's kind of what happened here, and that was kind of a consequence of that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know what else to say about that other than it is one of those weird fights, and I can see both sides of it. I really don't think that anybody was robbed. I don't think anybody would have been robbed on either side of it. If Jan would have won, I wouldn't say, oh, Suga should have won. Robbery. But I'm not saying that for Jan either. I don't think he was robbed. I really don't. I think it was really that close enough that it's down to, I guess, how you interpret the criteria, I guess. Anyway, but so what's next? What's next for that? He was kind of promised the title shot. I hate to say it. I mean, that's kind of what was being said. Whoever won that fight was going to get the title shot. So now I guess that technically means you're going to be you're going to be seeing Suga get the title shot. Honestly, in practice though, I don't actually see that that's what's happening. I don't think that's what's going to happen, and I don't necessarily even want that to happen, and I don't actually think that Suga wants that to happen either, because I think he kind of realizes, the grappling of Aljo is going to be a huge problem for me. That's what I think he's thinking, because say what you want about Suga winning or losing this fight, if you were paying attention, he's a pretty honest guy. He really is. He's saying the truth at all times. He really is. It's like, and you probably don't even believe me there. If you don't believe him, you probably don't believe what I'm saying right now. But seriously, when has he actually, been blatantly, I mean, it's except for him being mentally undefeated, that whole shtick, but which I also kind of agree with. He didn't, anyway, whatever in that point of view. But he specifically made a point of not saying, yes, I 100% won this fight. Except for now on Twitter, he's kind of saying, I rewatched it and I think I won. But when they asked him in the ring, that's not what he said. He actually didn't say anything for a couple of seconds and said, I think I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I had won. I wasn't sure. That tells you enough. He wasn't sure. He didn't think that he had dominated. And by that logic, it's like, I don't know if I did enough to win that fight. So that's how hard it was. He knew that it was that close, that it could have gone the other way easily. And because of that, and it was all because of that grappling. Because, I mean, really on the feet, it wasn't close. It was not close. Suga won that on the feet all day. That was literally not even close on the feet. But on the ground though, that's where we started to see the problems. And that is why even Suga is kind of saying, he didn't call out the champ. He did not say, give me that title shot right now. He never said that. Never said it. Never said, I watched the interviews and all that. Never really said that. Because I think he kind of knows he's going to have a problem, because he even saw Aljo. Well, actually, no, he didn't watch the fight after that. Because they even asked him that at the press conference. What did you see? But I think, he kind of knows, like, if I struggled with Jan's grappling, Aljo's going to be a problem. If he gets a hold of me, that's going to be a problem. That being said, the stand up. I think we saw here too that Aljo proved once again he can easily get that, get through people's stand up to get that grappling going. But, if, it's going to be a problem on the feet, though. How is he going to get to the ground? That's the thing. Is Suga is very good at keeping people at a distance like that. And except for now we saw Jan got him down. So again, if Jan can do it, Aljo can do it. So I just don't think that that's what's in the cards right away. But if Suga can work on that takedown defense, Sterling's gonna have a problem. Actually, anybody in the division is gonna have a problem, because I truly do believe at this point, and I don't even know how you could really say otherwise. He's clearly the best striker in the division. I mean, I already thought he was the second best, maybe the best, and I said that before. I said that. I don't have the tape or anything. It's in these streams somewhere. But I even said I really do think that Suga might have the best striking I've ever seen. I really did. I said that when after I watched his tape before the last fight that he had. I specifically said he's got some of the best striking I've ever seen, and he just proved that. I mean, everybody thought Jan was the best boxer in the UFC, and Suga just wiped that narrative away. I mean, he completely outstruck him in every single way. I mean, I don't know how you can't even argue that. Like, he clearly did. So, I mean, once he starts getting the grappling going now, which by the way, he showed he has good defense. He does. He has great submission defense, great grappling defense. But it's the takedowns. It's the takedowns that are maybe getting him a little bit, that caught him off guard a bit. He got surprised by a couple of them. And Aljo can do that too. And so can Merab. Yeah, if he gets that figured out, yeah, that's the champ. That's the champ right there, because that striking is something else. That striking is unbelievable. Anyway, that's enough talking about that. Co-main event. I don't even know how long that was. That was a while. Was that 6-7 minutes? Probably more than that. Aljo, TJ. I mean, listen, I'm not one of those people, and I don't think actually there were too many people. I didn't really see it so much. People saying, oh, it wasn't a real win, whatever. TJ was injured going into it, blah, 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 blah. I think that's kind of a stupid narrative, honestly. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's completely absurd to say that, because I don't even know how you could possibly say that TJ was going to really do much better if he was in full health. I just don't really see that, because his arm was fully in place. I completely agree with what Aljo was saying. I even said that before he said it. I was thinking that. I was like, well, like TJ's arm was in before he got taken down. And then after he was taken down, and then after the grappling, it was out. So obviously what Aljo was doing caused his arm to pop out. I don't know how you could see that any other way. That's just blatantly true. So, and then it's like, even after that, it's like he dominated him. It was not even close. Even before the arm came out, and even after actually he popped it back in, it was not close. It was not close at any moment, really, at all. So to me, that tells you, injury or not, that was never going to get any better for TJ. It just wasn't. And that's exactly how the fight was going to go, no matter what. I mean, could he have gone into the third round? Maybe even the fourth round. Maybe he wouldn't have even gotten the TKO. Maybe it would have been a submission instead. I don't know. But honestly, it just wasn't going to get any better, because it had nothing to do with the arm. He just was completely outclassed in every single way. So yeah, I don't know. There's not really much else to say other than that. I mean, he was just completely dominant, and I think you have to give Sterling the credit that he deserves, that he clearly is the best at this moment. That being said, what's next? I think we've kind of already found out we're probably going to be seeing Cejudo actually, because Suga, I think clearly, and he's smart enough to know this too. Suga knows that he's got to really work on that before he goes to fight Aljo, because Aljo, that is literally the only thing that Aljo does. That is what he does. Is he takes people down and controls them. That is his style. He will always do that, and he's always done that. And people know that he's going to do that, and he's still good at it. So, and it's the same thing with Merab too. If he ends up fighting him at some point, O'Malley's got to fix that. He's just got to work on that. And once he does, if he can, then yeah. But that, like I said, there's no other really clear person at bantamweight then to challenge Aljo other than Cejudo, because Cejudo is coming back. He could fight. He can fight within the next, I believe, his time period of USADA, and their drug testing. I think that period's already up, or it might be up in 1 or 2 months or something like that. So I think pretty clearly that is going to be the next title contender, and deservedly so. I mean, he was the double champ. He never lost his belts. So I don't know how you would give it to anybody else. Yeah. So I think that's clearly what we're going to be seeing. And how do I mean, we'll get into how I think that's going to be going, I guess. I don't really know. I think it would probably be Aljo, I got to say. Honestly, based on size alone, I hate to say it, but, yeah, of course, Cejudo has those skills. He's got an unbelievable skill set, and he's got probably the best fight IQ of anybody in the UFC. I honestly think he might have the best fight IQ. It's incredible. But can he beat somebody that's that much bigger than him? That is massive, massive, because Sterling has openly said he walks around at about 170. So he's cutting down from 170 to get down to 135. That is absolutely unbelievable. When Cejudo himself is probably walking around at about 140, maybe. I mean, well, maybe more than that. Probably like 150, I would imagine. He's probably about 150 normally. So, that's a huge kind of discrepancy. And you can see it when you look at them too, even when they're fighting. Just look at the tape. I mean, Aljo is clearly, he looks like he's in a different weight class, which he kind of is, because Cejudo was fighting at flyweight. And you think that he's gonna, like, I just don't, skills aside, skills can only get you so far, because you can't, I don't know. He's just, I don't know. Anyway, we're talking about this too much anyway. I'm just saying it's going to be a problem for Cejudo. But yeah, what's next for Suga? I would actually say, because now we've talked about the two matchups. I would say what's next for the entire, top 5 kind of range. Jan apparently might be leaving the UFC. I've heard talks of him maybe leaving the UFC for one championship, because he's pissed about the way things are working out. And honestly, I can't blame him, although it's not really the UFC's fault. It's kind of the refs. I mean the judges. They're the ones judging these fights, and it's up to him too. Like, if you perform better, you wouldn't be in this situation. Also, if the judges would have gone in his direction, he also wouldn't be in this situation either. So I don't know what to say about that. He's still obviously in the top 5. So I don't know. I think it's a little bit silly for him to leave. But anyway, that being said, so I don't know what's happening with Jan. Suga, easily could wait it out, 6-8 months, really get that grappling defense going, really get the grappling going, because let's be honest, it's true in either case. If Cejudo beats Aljo, he's got to deal with a wrestler. If Aljo beats Cejudo, he's got to deal with somebody who is going to drag him down and try and submit him the entire time. That will happen in both of these cases. So he's got to fix it. Or, you see Merab come up and do the same thing. You're also dealing with the same kind of thing. So he's got to work on it either way. So either he waits for that, or we see the rematch, which I think is probably what's going to be happening. You see the rematch between Chito and Suga, probably the co-main on a pay-per-view, on a huge pay-per-view next year. I could easily see that. I mean, that's probably what's going to be happening, I would say, because I think both of them are in that position for the next title shot. Cheeto, Suga rematching for the title shot. And then whoever wins that faces either Aljo or Cejudo. I think that's pretty clear. And Merab, I mean, he's got to beat somebody else. I mean, Aldo, I mean, that's probably the best case scenario of how that matchup could have worked out is he got Aldo because Aldo doesn't have, I mean, he's got the takedown defense, but then couldn't do anything outside of that and couldn't get any offense going. So, I mean, like, I guess really for, Sandhagen and Merab, that's how you could go with this. I don't know. I can't even, we're talking way too much. We need to move on here. We still got lightweight. I mean, this pay-per-view, there were so many ranked matchups that now we're kind of talking about all of these situations again. But yeah, we're really droning on here. I really need to stop. Lightweight main event, of course, title fight. Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev. We all know how that turned out. You know, I mean, clearly, I mean, I thought going into this, like I even said this, I said this last time, of course, I thought Charles was going to have a huge advantage on the feet, and I thought that was going to be the problem. And then, he'd be able to kind of shut down most of Islam's takedowns. And when he got down there, he'd be able to defend the submissions. That's kind of how I saw it going. So I thought, okay, KO for Oliveira. And that would probably, that's kind of how it would go. Or exactly what happened. The only thing I did not see coming, though, I would not have seen this coming at all, is that Islam was going to be the better striker in this. I definitely did not see that one coming, but that is exactly what happened, which to me, I mean, that solidifies the fact that I don't think this belt is going anywhere for quite a while. Yeah, I'm not really a Makhachev fan. I will say, I obviously think he's skilled. He deserves the belt. I'm definitely not taking that away from him. And you know what? He really does seem like a really nice guy. I was listening to the interviews after. Seems like a pretty nice guy. I don't know. I'm still not a huge fan. He's never going to be my favorite fighter, but 100% he has the skills. And honestly, I don't think that belt's going anywhere for a real long time. I don't think Volkanovski's going to win. I don't think anybody in the lightweight division right now is even close to beating him. I really don't. I think Charles is kind of the only person that really has a chance. Yeah, I can't even think of anybody that would. I mean, Volk has a chance, actually. I would say Volk has a much better chance than anybody at lightweight does, which is saying a lot. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, we'll get into that, of course, when that matchup gets closer. I'm genuinely not sure about that one. I don't know how Volk is going to do. I do think, though, Islam is just bigger. I mean, yeah, of course. Again, I almost started talking about it again. We should really just stop talking about this. But yeah, I think that's obviously the next matchup for Islam. Volk, of course. As for Charles, we might actually see him in Brazil. I've heard, I mean, why not? He wants to fight all the time. He's clearly not really injured from that. So I think we easily could see that. And, we could see Charles and Dariush. We could see Charles and Poirier or Chandler. The winner of that. I don't know. There's a lot of options between those four fighters specifically. Poirier, Chandler, Dariush, Charles. There's a lot of options there. And of course, that would then produce the next title challenger after Volkanovski. Anyway, that's the end of UFC 280. My goodness. Wow, we talked a long time about that. Again, next week, this is going to be going way smoother starting next week because I'll have better notes to go, move me through these situations. But yeah, of course, there was also just a lot to say about the pay-per-view because there were so many ranked fights and so many people that are in now title contention in that kind of range. So you kind of have to talk about them. KO of the night. I even said it. Belal Muhammad. Sub of the night. Islam. I mean, come on. There was no way that was going to go any other way. And then brawl of the night, again, pretty obvious. Petr Yan, Sean O'Malley. Fight of the month. I mean, there's no way that's going to be, and nobody's going to be beating that for fight of the month, especially at this point. I mean, nobody on this next card is going to be beating it. I can tell you that. And then most valuable fighter. I had two this time because I think they both deserved quite a bit of recognition, honestly. Sean O'Malley, I mean, massive underdog, proved a lot of people wrong. Not me, though, because I knew. I was saying it. I was saying how good he was. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, to go from, what was it, 11th he was ranked, now to the number one contender spot, beating who a lot of people think should be the champ right now because they don't think he lost to Aljo. I mean, what else can you say? Clearly, he deserves to be recognized because of that alone. By the way, also did the most damage we have ever seen to Petr Yan. We've never seen Petr Yan look like that, ever. So, again, based on that fact alone, you should be getting a special most valuable fighter bonus for that. And then, of course, the most valuable fighter possibly in the UFC. I mean, you've got basically now the number one and number two pound for pound people are going to be fighting against each other because I don't think Usman really deserves to be there. You know, you've got Volk and then Islam, number one and number two in my mind. So, you know, I mean, you cannot really get any more valuable than Islam outside of Volkanovski. So, I mean, of course he was going to get a bonus. He finished the all-time finishing leader in Charles, the bonus leader, the finish leader, the submission leader. You know, I mean, he did that. He did that thing, you know? So obviously he also got the most valuable fighter bonus. And that's it for UFC 280. It was a long one, my goodness. And we will quickly talk about Road to UFC before we then take a break. I honestly won't go too much into it because we took up so much time talking about the pay-per-view there that I will go through this fairly quickly. We'll start with episode 5 first because there were 2 episodes. I'll explain how this works first. There was episode 5 and episode 6. That's what they did on the Sunday. I don't really know why they do that. I mean, I guess they want to split it into 4 or 5 fight, or actually it is 5 fight increments to make it easily watchable. And then I don't know, whatever. But it was basically just one long card because they even shot it and, you know, streamed it live with 10 fights in a row. So, you know, it's basically a 10 fight card. Let's be honest. So yeah, episode 5, that was the first semifinal group. And that was, that opened up with a non-title fight. That was Keisuke Sasu and Balajin. That would be Japan. That was Keisuke Sasu, and then Balajin from China. Again, won't go too far into it this time. A little bit of, well, actually, I don't know. It was a little bit surprising. Balajin actually was supposed to appear in the first round. There was that whole thing going on with the COVID restrictions and all of that for the Chinese team going into the last round. So he actually was one of those people that missed the fight. So he was not there in the opening round. And then Keisuke Sasu was in the opening round, but he lost. So, I mean, I kind of thought Balajin had the edge in this one, but seemed a little bit close. And it ended up being Keisuke Sasu who won by decision in this one. And it wasn't really all that close. But, you know, it was a non-tournament bout. But, you know, it's kind of like the Contender Series at that point because it is in front of UFC audiences and Dana White and all of those people that you need to be in front of. So it kind of had that Contender Series vibe, not just for this fight, but all the fights that we were watching for Road to UFC, because that's essentially what it is. It's just a long form contender series. Yeah, I could have seen either one of these guys really getting an invite to the contender series, but I just didn't think that they were skilled enough to get a spot directly into the UFC for either one of these guys. But could we see them in the contender series or even tough well, I guess tough would be a little harder. Tough would be tough. Because they are, of course, from Asia. So unless you did tough in Asia itself, you're probably not going to get a lot of these people going, because tough is usually reserved for those North American fighters, because that's just kind of the way the show is designed. But yeah, in terms of contender series though, 100%, you could see either one of these guys for sure. The second fight, that would be, which one? I think this was this lightweight? I didn't actually write it down. Here we go. It was lightweight. It was lightweight. So this was the first lightweight semifinal. Oops. Fight number 2 here. Jeka Saragih from Indonesia and Won Bin Ki from Korea. And I gotta say, pretty shocking end to this one. I did not see this one coming at all. Won Bin Ki, I honestly thought was the favorite of the entire division for this series. I think he was clearly the outright favorite to win this contract in the final. I really do. So for him to get knocked out like this, it was a brutal knockout. I mean, it was on socials for quite a while after that. It was one of the most brutal knockouts I've seen in a while. Knocked him out cold, was unconscious before he even hit the canvas, I think. Yeah, so huge power coming from Jeka Saragih. And really did not see that one coming at all. And I mean, clearly Won Bin Ki also did not see it coming at all. And that was in the very first round. What a way to open up the semifinals. My God, that was insane. Also, by the way, very entertaining guy. I forgot to follow him on social media, but I probably will. He's a really funny guy, really entertaining. And honestly, well, I'm not going to give any predictions yet, because we'll get into that later. Because I will give my predictions at the end of this portion, because, of course, I won't be giving my predictions before that. Or I might maybe reference it in the stream just before that. I don't know. But anyway, so that's how the fights opened up. The tournament opened up. The semifinals opened up, I should say, with Jeka Saragih from Indonesia getting a massive KO over Won Bin Ki. The second semifinal that we saw, that was Seung Choi and Cho Lun. That was at flyweight. I remember that. Cho Lun was actually on the contender series a while ago, as well as the the quarterfinals, of course, of Road to UFC. I think, like most people, I kind of thought Cho Lun was gonna run away with this. I mean, he had the experience. He looked fantastic in the opening round. But yeah, really struggled this time. And I had to agree with the judges on this one. I also scored at 29-28 for Choi. And it was the first 2 rounds. The first 2 rounds, he just got ahead of Choi and never let him get back in there. He had the better output. He just did better. Yeah. Just won the fight. That's all I can say. And Cho Lun struggled. I could easily see, once again, both of these guys getting a shot on the contender series, because I even wrote it down here. This is a fight that I actually saw. If you were watching it, you'd be like, oh, okay, this looks like it's in the UFC right now. It could have been on, well, maybe not on the pay-per-view, but it could be on a regular fight night. This fight could have been happening on Saturday. This Saturday, it looked like that kind of quality of fight. They were both looking really good. Yeah, Choi, definitely somebody to look out for in the finals. He is pretty talented, I gotta say. I mean, beating Cho Lun in that tournament, it's no small feat, because like I said, he was on the contender series and did fairly well. Then we saw Yi Jia and Koyomi Matsushima. This ended up in a split decision, and this, I would say, was one of the best fights we've seen in the entire series so far, because both of these guys, very, very talented. And this was actually the main event of episode 5, the fourth fight there. This was the main event of the episode, and I 100% see why it was put in that place, because both of these guys very, very talented, and I could see both of them getting a shot, not even just on the Contender Series. I could actually see both of them in the UFC at some point, because both of these guys did look very good. That being said, Yi Jia, he did win the fight, so I could see him winning the tourney, but the opponent that he ends up getting from episode 6 is terrifying. He is a terror, that is for sure. But it is going to be quite the interesting fight. And like I said, I would not be surprised if both of these guys, Yija and Koyomi Matsushima, from this fight alone, actually do get a chance in the UFC, or at the very least on the Contender Series, because they looked very, very, very good. Episode 6 now. So this was episode 5 done. That was the first one. The second half of the semifinals were these ones, and that opened with another non tournament bout. That was Samandar Muradov and Gian Sakira. And again, this actually really did remind me of a Contender Series bout, because that's usually what you end up seeing. You usually end up seeing some kind of Russian guy, some kind of Brazilian guy. So it really had the feel of a real Contender Series bout. And let's just say, if this would have been a Contender Series bout, Samandar Muradov would have 100% guaranteed himself a contract with what he did. Amazing performance, looked absolutely fantastic. First round submission, dominated the entire time. Super, super impressive. So yeah, I could 100% see him getting a shot on the Contender Series for a real contract, or easily see him getting that shot just straight in the UFC on a card. I really could. He was very, very good. I was very impressed with him. Fight number 6, but of course the second one of episode 6 was Anshul Jubli from India and Kyung Pyo Kim from Korea. Going into this, I'm not afraid to say it. I definitely had the Korean on this one. Not even just because, Jubli actually got his spot in the semifinals because he didn't even have to fight actually in the first round. So he actually got the spot because somebody else, I believe, pulled out or was injured or something. I can't remember what happened in that first round, but he ended up getting this spot in the semis because of whatever happened. So not only did he not fight in the first round, he also is from that Indian regional scene. And if I'm being honest, not the greatest regional scene, I gotta say. I've seen a decent amount of footage of the Indian regional scene. Developing is an understatement. It is definitely not up to the same standard as anywhere else I've ever seen. Obviously not up to the Russia, China, Korea, Brazil, North America, not even close to those. It reminds me more so of what South Africa looks like with EFC. That's kind of what it reminds me of, where it's like, yeah, there's a couple of half decent guys, but in general, not very good. In fact, I would say it might even be less reliable than South Africa at this point. It's a little shaky. So, I definitely was going in the Kyung Pyo Kim direction, especially since we saw Kim in the quarterfinals and he looked pretty good. But, I will freely admit when I am completely wrong, because, funny enough, I actually heard the result that Anshul Jubli had won before I had watched it, because I had seen on social media. I hate when this happens, because I like to isolate myself before I watch the fights, because I don't want to know what happens, especially when I'm writing about it, because I don't want to be biased by what I already know is going to happen. But I got to say, I heard, okay, Jubli won by split decision, probably some kind of garbage decision where Kim probably won and he just got kind of screwed on the cards. That is not what happened at all. I would actually say that Jubli got kind of screwed on the cards because I actually thought that he dominated that fight. He really did. And he looked way, way better than I thought. Like I said, I will freely admit when I am wrong, and I was dead wrong about this one. Jubli, so much better than I ever would have thought he was. Really, really, really looked like a really good striker. He's an amazing striker. And honestly shut down the grappling quite a bit. He was pretty good. He was pretty good the entire time. I ended up scoring it 29-28 because of the last round, only because of the last round, because he started to get taken down pretty easily in that third round. So it was kind of more of a cardio kind of thing than anything else because he was slowing down, and that allowed Kim to start getting takedowns as the fight went on. But before that, the first two rounds, yeah, I mean, he was dominating on the feet, and he looked very, very good. So I'm very impressed with Anshul Jubli, and even just based on the fact alone that he's from India, I would honestly be surprised if the UFC didn't give him another shot, even if he loses in the finale there. I think that there's so much. This is, by the way, the other lightweight finalist other than Jeka Saragih. And because they're both from unusual countries for the UFC, like I said, I kind of don't actually think even the final one matters a whole lot because I honestly think we'll be seeing both of these guys again in the UFC. I really, really do. Or at the very least on the Contender Series because they're trying to build the sport in these regions, give these guys a chance. Plus, not only that, I mean, they also performed pretty well. I was pretty impressed by both of them, really. So yeah, anyway. Next fight after that, Hyun Sung Park, Top Noi Kiram. I mean, what a fight, honestly. This was pretty exciting. It wasn't a long fight. It ended in the first round, but man, I love a good showboat when they can back it up like this. And I mean, yes, Kiram did lose, so he didn't necessarily back it up, but he does have the stand-up skills to back up all the showboating, and I love it. And there is no way in hell that we're not seeing this guy again. He lost this fight. He was submitted in the first round, but outside of that result, this guy is a superstar. He really is. He has the potential to be something huge. Based on, I mean, really only solidified by the fact that Volkanovski himself was the corner of Top Noi Kiram in this fight. He stayed around to corner Top Noi Kiram in this fight. That really tells you how good Kiram is, and that he really definitely does have a future here. The only problem, and he said it himself. I mean, actually, he didn't say it himself. This is the first time he was ever submitted. Normally, he can shut down those takedowns easily because he is a hard guy to take down and keep down. We saw that in the first couple minutes. But eventually, in this one specifically, he was taken down and then, obviously submitted from there. But seriously, the stand-up game of this guy, I am not exaggerating when I say this is genuinely one of the best strikers in that division. I'm serious about this. His only real problem, like I said, is the takedown defense and the submission defense. Because if he tightens that up, you're seriously looking at somebody who's going to be a real problem even in the UFC because his striking really is that good. And that is exactly why Volkanovski is attaching himself to this guy and training him because this is, don't let this loss fool you. We will see Top Noi Kiram again, and he will come back in a big way. I fully expect to see that happening. I really do. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't even know what else to say. I mean, he is that good. Anyway, the win did go to Hyun Sung Park with the submission in the first round because he is a very, very good grappler. Because again, like I said, I have to remind you, yes, 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 Kiram is a kickboxer. He doesn't have that background. He doesn't have the grappling background. But again, that was the first time he was submitted. And he really does usually shut all those takedowns down and get out of those submissions. So, he's a lot better than that performance would tell you. And that also just tells you how good the Korean actually is. Then we saw Rinya Nakamura and Shohei Noze. I mean, this was not even remotely close by any means. Nakamura absolutely steamrolled through Noze, just annihilated him on the feet. By the way, Nakamura is a wrestler. He is, I think he might have even been in the Olympics. I can't remember, but definitely a wrestler. So his wrestling is absolutely unreal. And he just destroyed this guy on the feet. Absolutely not even close, not even close. Just dominated him on the feet for an easy TKO. I mean, it was some clean striking, unbelievable. And he even referenced that in his speech where he said, "Yes, I am a wrestler, but I switch it up based on who I'm fighting." And that tells you how good of a fighter he really is, because he's not even he knows that he can out wrestle people like that, but he also knows that, hey, I don't have to do that all the time. If I think that I'm a better striker than somebody, I'm going to just destroy them on the feet, because I can do that too. And he, makes his game plans based on where he thinks his opponent's weaknesses are, because he feels really as though he doesn't really have any weaknesses. And honestly, he doesn't. From what I saw, he doesn't really have any weaknesses. So I was very, 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 very impressed with Rinya Nakamura here, and he is going to be extremely difficult to beat in the finals. I cannot wait to see him again. And like I said, this is another scenario where I could see, even if he loses in the finals, I would not be surprised if we saw him get another shot in a different way, because he is that good. He is insanely good. Speaking of insanely good, I mean, nobody, honestly, I think nobody on this show is as good as Jeong Lee. That was the finale, the main card, I should say the main event of episode 6, the last semifinal that we saw. And there's a reason for that. They know how good Jeong Lee is. He is so unbelievably good. He has now gotten two knockouts in less than a minute. That's unbelievable. That is how he's finished both of these fights. I think there was 40 seconds in both of the fights. That's it. I mean, and by the way, and it looked easy. It's not even he's struggling and then he catches the guy and then he wins the fight. No, it's he is absolutely dominating these guys and then just finishing them. And then that's it. And he just walks away yeah. What do you think was going to happen? That's his kind of attitude towards it, where it's honestly, these people are not on my level at all. He even said that. He specifically said, they're not on my level at all. I will be in the UFC. And to be honest, from what I saw, his striking is so good, where I'm not even kidding. I honestly think that at featherweight, he already could be threatening the top 15 at featherweight. I truly believe that, because he's just, not only does he have the skill, the speed, the technique and all that, the power coming from this guy. I mean, I swear he must walk around, even in the cage. I swear he had to have been 160, 165 pounds. He looks like a welterweight fighting, easily, for sure, a lightweight. And this guy's a featherweight. I mean, this guy is an absolute tank walking around, and he's got the speed to boot here. I mean, I am truly in disbelief at how good this guy and how powerful this guy really is. So I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, like 46 seconds in this fight, and I can't remember what the first fight was. It was like 30 seconds, 40, something like that too in the first one. I would be honestly shocked if he didn't win, the next fight. So that leaves us with the tournament finals. Who is in those finals? We'll go through it one by one, and I will give my predictions for each one quickly. And then we will quickly go on to finally talk about UFC Vegas 63. So we'll open up with flyweight. We'll go in weight order. Why would you not? The 125ers. We'll go with the flyweight finals. That is Seung Choi, Hyun Sung Park, of course, both from Korea. And this I would say is probably the closest fight. I don't actually know this one, and I would say actually, yeah, flyweight and bantamweight, they're very close, and they really could go either way. I'm not really sure which way it's going to go, to be honest. But I still think there's kind of a clear direction to go in terms of what we just saw, and that would be, especially with the flyweights, they know each other. Obviously, they're both from Korea. I think they even trained together for this tournament, so they clearly know each other very well, which makes it a lot more interesting and closer too. By the way, whenever that happens. But yeah, I have got to give the edge to Hyun Sung Park on this one. I mean, Park survived the striking of Kyoram, Topnoi Kyoram. So I mean, already nothing that Choi does on the feet is going to phase you, because you already saw pretty much one of the best strikers you're ever going to be seeing. That's just true. So, yeah, so that's already kind of like, okay, he's not going to have a problem in the striking. And then he took him down and then gave him his first submission loss. So that again already tells you how good he is at keeping people down and then, getting a submission. Whereas Choi, he did really well against Cho Lun. That's who he did again. That's who he was fighting against. We just talked about that. But he didn't have that same level of success against Cho Lun, where Topnoi Kyoram, way better than Cho Lun. If that was the matchup, Topnoi Kyoram would have absolutely annihilated Cho Lun. That would not have even been close. So to me, it's that different level in competition. I think, I'm forgetting the names. I'm not good at remembering names. I have to be looking at them. Hyun Sung Park, I mean, he did better against the better opponent. So to me, that probably means that he has a slight edge against Seung Choi. And on the other side, like I said, Choi had a fairly close fight against Cho Lun, so I don't know. I don't know if he'll grab another finish, but I just feel like Park should be able to at least get the fight going his way. So that's my prediction for the flyweight finals. I'm going with Hyun Sung Park on that one. Either way, we're getting a Korean champion. That's all. I mean, that's guaranteed already, unless, of course, one of them, of course, gets injured or whatever and swapped out. But as it stands, we're getting a guaranteed Korean champ there. And by that same thing, we're going to be seeing a Japanese bantamweight winner, because both finalists are from Japan. We did not see one of them this week, though, and that would have been Toshiomi Kazama. We did not see Kazama fight because his opponent, I can't remember who he was, but he was one of the Korean fighters. He missed weight, which meant that Kazama did not have to fight. That being said, Kazama looked very, very good in his opening fight. So I really think that this is probably going to be the most even one on paper, except for maybe that flyweight one. Like I said, the flyweight bantamweight ones, very, very even. But yeah, anyway, so on the one side, Kazama, and he actually beat, if you watch the opening one, He beat, oh, this is the hardest name of the entire series, and it is one of the craziest names I've ever seen. It is Karamuaili Maimai Tituoheti. That's his name. So he Kazama beat that guy, who actually I would say was one of the favorites of the tournament. He was looking very like he was going to be one of the really, really top guys. So the fact that Kazama, you know, beat him like that, I'm pretty impressed. That being said, he's going against Nakamura, who, to be honest, I haven't seen any weak points in his entire skill set. He is unbelievable on the ground because he is one of the best wrestlers in the world, probably at his weight class. And he's also got insane striking, to the point where I actually even wrote down here, he honestly looked like he would be top 20 in the UFC. I really do. Like, that's how good he looked. I don't know if he actually could compete in the top 20 of the UFC, but that's how he looked. That is how good he looked. So to me, I've got to go in that direction. And I think he's going to get a dominant decision, or he's going to get another finish. Probably more likely a KO, because Nakamura, I mean, I was going to say Kazumura, because Toshiomi Kazama is more of a grappler, which is what we saw in their first matchup. And because we know that he's smart, we know that he adjusts his style based on the person he's fighting. I would imagine he's going to come out as more so a striker. And then, he'll be shutting down Kazama's grappling pretty easily. I would imagine that's how it's going to be going. So I'm going with the easier choice. I mean, the choice that makes a lot more sense. Got to go with Nakamura. He just seems already like he's at UFC level. And it's the same thing really for the next one. That's the bantamweight one. The featherweight finals, Yi Jia and Jeong Lee. I even said it. I mean, Jeong Lee, to be honest, I think actually really could compete in the top 15 in the UFC right now at featherweight, because he is that crazy good. He's good and he's massive. That's a terrifying combination. So I think Yi Jia is going to have a problem. I do think Yi Jia is an extremely talented fighter, but Lee, I don't know. Like, he's that next level for me. He's that next level. So I think Lee should be able to get another KO. I really do. And that'll be it for the featherweight finals right there. The lightweight finals, I kind of see the same kind of way, because you've seen Jeka Saragih get 2 KOs in a row now over people who were favorites over him. And I imagine that's going to be the same way again. He's got a lot of power. He's quick. He's got power. And although Anshul Jubli looked very good, he did get hit quite a bit. He did get hit. So I just think you can't get hit like that. You cannot get hit like that, because if Saragih knocked out cold somebody who I would say was widely considered the favorite of the tournament going into this, he can knock out anybody. He can knock out anybody in this tournament, and I would say that's probably what's going to be happening. So I would say Jeka Saragih is the pretty clear choice for that. So yeah, those are my choices. So for flyweight, I've got Hyun Sung Park. I think that's going to be close. Then I've got Rinya Nakamura. I think that's going to be fairly close for the bantamweights. Then I've got featherweights, Jeong Lee. I think that's going to be a pretty easy KO for him again. And then Jeka Saragih, same thing for lightweight. I think he's also going to get a KO. Those are my predictions. I will stand by those. But of course, I'm sure one of those matchups is probably going to fall through. I mean, it's just what happens with these kind of tournament style things. It's hard to keep matchups together like that. Yeah, it's just hard. It's a hard thing to keep together. The best, especially in a COVID kind of world now, right? Because I mean, if somebody gets COVID, boom, you're out. That's it. Your whole road to UFC journey is over just because of that. Anyway, best of the rest. I did include this section again. I included this from the Contender Series, my best of the rest segment. For this, I think there's two very clear choices and in very different, in really the opposite styles. I would say Topnoi Kiram is my best of the rest, just slightly on top. And obviously for the striking, I mean, it's not for the submission skills. So yeah, I think Topnoi Kiram, we are going to see this guy again. You're going to see him in the UFC eventually. You know, it sucks to see that he got eliminated from the tournament, but seriously, don't worry. I can guarantee you we are going to see Topnoi Kiram again. Guarantee it. I don't know when, but there is no way the UFC is passing up on this guy because they've done features on this guy. They've interviewed him more than anybody else. They've done huge segments on this guy. There's no way they're letting this guy go, especially with Volkanovski cornering him for this. There is no way they're letting this guy go. So you're going to see him again. Don't worry. The other choice, the other person that I put in this, Kiyomi Matsushima, he was the guy that ended up losing to, who was that? Who did he lose to? Yija. He was the one who lost to Yija because honestly, his grappling is some pretty next level grappling. You don't normally see people that are this good on the ground, especially at 145. What is it, 145? Now I can't remember. Oh yeah. 145. So you don't normally see people that are that good on the ground at 145, especially not in the UFC. I mean, who do we have that's like that? You've got Bryce Mitchell and you've got Ievloyev, who are, by the way, both of them skyrocketing up the division specifically because of that grappling skill. So, you know, 145, a grappler like that, I'm just saying, I think that's somebody who we're going to be seeing again on the Contender Series. Probably on the Contender Series, getting another shot because it is rare to find that, especially in the UFC at 145. That's just not what we're seeing. We're seeing more strikers at 145. So it'll be interesting to see it if they bring him back. I hope they do because it makes a lot of sense. I mean, again, just think about what I said. We need more grapplers at 145, and he's an insanely good grappler. So I don't know. But yeah, that is it for Road to UFC. I cannot wait to see the finals. Like I said, I love this format. I love tournaments. I love this kind of thing. I just cannot say enough about it. It's so entertaining and I love it, especially with the way that they've done it now, where they're making it a huge emphasis on the country, because I think it is that big of a deal for those countries, especially with India and Indonesia now. And it was with Thailand, actually, with Topnoi Kiram as well. But now, you know, of course, with these two making the finals, Anshul Jubli for India and Jeka Saragih for Indonesia, you know, it's a huge thing for these countries. These guys are now pretty big stars in their countries. They really are. I mean, India, you know, it's a much bigger country, so maybe not the same kind of media coverage that Saragih would be getting. But yeah, Jeka Saragih for sure. Massive, massive star potential. Even right now, because Indonesia, you don't normally see them in high level sports like this. So it's a huge deal for them. And I could not be happier because this guy, like I said, super entertaining guy. And I really do think he's going to get away with the contract and the win there. Either way, again, I think we're going to be seeing both of them. Anyway, that is enough for Road to UFC. We are taking way, way too long. My God, we've got to really blow through this UFC Vegas 63, these picks now. But yeah, we will take a short break so I can take some water in to refresh myself here. And I will be right back after this ad. See you after this.
Allow me to introduce Pie Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen, when I say high stick vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say high stick vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. But maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a f***ing hockey stick. Showcase your passion for hockey with our limited edition hand-blown hockey stick bottle. Whether you're celebrating victory or drinking to defeat, High Stick Vodka is better after every shot. Visit us at highstickvodka.com. It also comes in this regular bottle. Celebrate victory. Drink responsibly.
And we're back with UFC Vegas 63. Like I said, we will try and go through this fairly quick because I don't want to waste too much more time. Opening up with the main card, this is, I would say, actually one of the best matchups of the night, or maybe not the matchup, but I'm excited to watch because I think Dustin Jacoby is so talented. And that's the way this main card is opening up. Dustin Jacoby, Khalil Roundtree. I mean, I think they're kind of, what they're doing here is it's one of those scenarios where they're giving somebody that the UFC really likes and wants to see be a huge star, Dustin Jacoby, and they're giving him a matchup that they know he's got a pretty solid chance of winning. And that's really what's going to happen here. I mean, you know, I like Khalil Roundtree. I mean, I think it was him that did the soccer kick. He kicked the guy in the right here. I think it was like, oh yeah, he got like the liver kick while the guy was sitting. So he's still a grounded opponent, but you can kick them to the body when they are grounded. And that is exactly what he did. And it was nasty. I'm pretty sure that was him. It was disgusting, but I loved it. But yeah, on the other side though, Dustin Jacoby, former Glory kickboxer. He's fought pretty much everybody in, you know, the who's who of Glory kickboxing. He's fought them all. He's even beaten some of them too. Just insanely good striker. And really the only reason why he didn't really necessarily do that well a couple of fights ago was because he injured himself going into the fight to the point where he couldn't kick. So as a kickboxer, he couldn't kick anybody. You can imagine how hard that would be. And he still ended up beating a pretty impressive top prospect there. And then he translated that over into an absolutely insane win in the last one where he finished his opponent in the first round because he could now strike to his full extent again. And I believe that's exactly what we'll be seeing in this one too. He has his, you know, he's healthy again. He'll be able to strike the way that he's known for striking. And yeah, that's going to be a problem for Roundtree. So honestly, I think this is a pretty easy finish for Jacoby. At the very least, he's going to get a pretty dominant decision. Because again, he's a Glory kickboxer. This is what he does. He's also undefeated in the UFC. He's also a ranked, I don't know if he's ranked anymore, but he was ranked at one point. And he's still never lost in the UFC. So like this guy is a huge deal. And they're giving him Roundtree, who his last 2 wins are Carl Robertson and Modestas Bukauskas. Like, I just don't see how this is even a close matchup at all. I really don't. Which is crazy to me because the odds are very, very close. So I would say you've got a huge profit margin on Jacoby right now. The odds are set at minus 180. Minus 180 for Jacoby and plus 142 for Roundtree. I don't even think this is close. Like I said, I'm putting Jacoby in a parlay for sure. Minus 180. I mean, the potential profits on Jacoby on this are through the roof, especially if you're going to be probably betting on a KO. I would imagine those numbers are going to be pretty significant. So I'm excited about that one. The over-under on this is over-under 1.5. Over 1.5 is at minus 160. Under 1.5 is plus 125. The guy just got a first-round KO. That guy's a glory kickboxer. The other guy barely, he doesn't have the same quality wins. Like, again, I would even say, like I said, just go with that on this. Go with the under 1.5 plus 125. That is for sure worth a little bit of the risk there, especially when the other direction is minus 160. When, like I said, there's that huge gap. Like, I just don't see, it's like, I just don't see why they should be going that close. I don't think it's close at all. So, yeah, Jacoby minus 180, throw that in a parlay. The under 1.5 at plus 125. I think there's some huge money to be made on that matchup. The next one, Tresean Gore, Josh Fremd. I'm lost on this one. I mean, there's a lot of, actually, I would say half the matchups on this card are like this. It is such a bizarre card. It really is. All these matchups, I don't even know what to think about a lot of these matchups. This one is one of those because Gore, I mean, he was 3-0 after Tough, and he was looking like he was going to win Tough 29. That was with Brian Battle. And then he ended up getting injured, didn't end up fighting in the finale. Then we saw Battle actually end up fighting him anyway after he won the Tough 29. And he ended up winning that fight pretty easily. He dominated that fight by being more active because Gore didn't really get anything going. And then we saw, okay, Cody Brundage goes in there. And I would say a grappler in Cody Brundage knocks out Tresean Gore in the first round. So it's like, I don't know what to think about Gore anymore. And then on the other side, Josh Fremd only has one fight in the UFC, and he also lost. He got out grappled though. That's really what happened there. Is who was that? Something Anthony Hernandez. I knew it was Hernandez, but there's so many Hernandezes I couldn't remember which one. It was Anthony Hernandez, dominated on the ground by him. So I don't know what to think here. I don't know. So I'm just going with what statistically would be the best features, I would say, I guess, and that's Fremd. Fremd should be the favorite in this one, and he actually is the betting favorite on this one, so I kind of stand by where I'm going with this. He is taller. He is taller and longer than Gore, barely. He's a more active kind of guy. He usually goes straight for the action, and unfortunately that didn't work out so well because he was out grappled so much in the last fight. But Gore doesn't really grapple, so that's not really a problem in this one. So for me, he really mimics a lot of what Battle is. Battle is a tall, active striker, and that's how he beat Gore. Fremd, tall, fairly active striker. Seems to make sense that he's also probably going to win. And I think it's pretty clearly going to be a decision if Fremd wins. But Gore has that one punch power. So he could also win. He could get the KO. I think the safer bet, though, if you're going based on what we've seen, what we've seen from Gore and then the one kind of fight that we've seen from Fremd, I would say Josh Fremd is who you should be picking. But it is very close. And if you want to go with Gore by KO, go in that direction, I could easily see that. I don't think Gore by decision is really the way to go, but Gore by takeout. Gore by knockout. I was thinking TKO, takeout for some reason. Gore, this is how I'm losing it because we're 2 hours in. But yeah, that's how I'm seeing it on this one. I'm going with Fremd on this one. Minus 167 favorite. Definitely not throwing that in the parlay, throwing that out the window. I'm not going anywhere near a parlay on that one. But yeah, minus 167, plus 137 for Gore. Over under is at 2.5, and it's actually pretty much even. It is over 2.5 is minus 108, under 2.5 is minus 119. I'm going for the 2.5 over for sure because I think Fremd is going to win that, which would mean I would say we're probably going to be seeing a decision here. That's how I'm seeing it. But, again, if Gore gets the win, though, you're seeing a KO. Pretty sure. So that's how you could really go either way on this. Bet what you think. I mean, the return for sure would be better if Gore gets a knockout, but is that more realistic? I'm not sure. We just haven't seen it from him. We just haven't seen that fire from him yet at all. So yeah, that's a weird one. After that, Waldo Cortez Acosta, Jared Vanderaa. I don't really think this is all that close at all. I mean, Jared Vanderaa, he's on a 4-fight losing or he's lost 4 of his last 5 fights. Just hasn't looked good at all. Like, I don't have a problem with the guy. I actually think he's a pretty nice, kind of entertaining guy. He's pretty funny actually sometimes. But he's getting destroyed. He's either getting finished by these guys or he's getting absolutely dominated. And it really hasn't even been all that close. The only close fight that he had was Chase Sherman, and he was winning that fight. He was beating Chase Sherman, and then he lost. He got finished by him. By the way, Chase Sherman, not necessarily the most impressive guy. I would say he's probably one of the least impressive guys in the whole UFC. So for him to lose like that says a lot. That's brutal. So for me, I gotta go with Waldo Cortez Acosta. Because he's on his way up. He is the next wave of Contender Series people. Because Vanderaa is from the Contender Series, and he was brought in that way too. But Cortez Acosta, he just has the perfect kind of style for this. Because Vanderaa struggles with people that are like this, that are, he gets hit a lot, and Cortez Acosta hits people a lot. So, this is like the perfect matchup for Cortez Acosta to come into the UFC, get a statement win, getting good on the fans there, and get something going. And that's clearly what he's being brought in for here. So I would say that's a pretty clear win for Cortez Acosta. The odds, same, very much in favor of that. -209 for Cortez Acosta, plus 162, I should say, for Vanderaa. Yeah. And I mean, again, you're talking about heavyweights. You're also talking about somebody in Vanderaa who's been finished 3 or 4 times in the UFC. So to me, Cortez Acosta is just too relentless and powerful with his striking. I think it's going to be a pretty clear, easy KO in that direction. So I'm going with the under 1.5 because I think it's going to be a first. Actually, no, that's right. I did go second round because Vanderaa is a very tough guy. So I think he could make it to the second round. I still might go in that under 1.5 direction because I think it's probably still going to be the first half of that round. I don't know. I do think that he's going to get a pretty easy KO win, though, for Cortez Acosta. So I'm going with the under. But I think it is going to be kind of close because Vanderaa is one of those really tough punching bag kind of guys. He gets hit a lot. He can take it a lot, and then he dishes it out right back. But he's too slow for Cortez Acosta in this case. The co-main event, that would be Tim Means, Max Griffin. Another dead even fight. Again, this really could go either way on this one, but I gotta go with what I see statistically because on paper, I would say these guys are pretty much dead even. But I've got to go with, yes, statistically, and also what I've seen in the past couple fights, plus who they've been fighting. Because Tim Means, his last fight was Kevin Holland, and he still made it to the second round. And a lot of people are surprised by that because he is not really he's not really a striker, and he doesn't really go for submissions either. He's kind of a guy that controls his opponents, gets some offense in close, shutting down your offense, and then ends up winning on the cards like that. That's what he does. He makes it very, very close for people. And Griffin kind of also does a similar thing. So it's kind of, well, he's more active for sure, but he's been fighting this. Actually, I don't even know if I can say he's been fighting the worst people. That's why this is so tough, because Tim Means, Kevin Holland. But, oh yeah, the difference, of course, like I said, he shut down Kevin Holland striking, which is not many people can do that. So that's already impressive, which to me tells me that the striking of Griffin is not going to make a difference here. And he beat Nicholas Dalby. And for me, that's what flipped it for me. It was the fact that Tim Means shut down a lot of Holland's striking to the point where Holland actually, he won by submission. And he beat Nicholas Dalby, who to me was actually looking like one of the best up and coming prospects. He really did. So, and he's a heavy grappler. So he's kind of got the best of both styles, where he can really work with his styles. He's smart enough to win decisions. Max Griffin does not have that. He's been losing close decisions. He's been losing them. He lost in a split to Magny. He lost in a split to Alex Oliveira. And yeah, that was it. I didn't write anything other than that. But Griffin, like I said, he has a history of losing close decisions. He has lost three split decisions in the UFC and one outside the UFC. So he's lost 4 split decisions. That tells me that he is not favorable to the judges on the cards. And is that flimsy? Is that a flimsy premise to pick a winner of a fight? Maybe. But when you know that this is probably going to be hitting the cards, you should probably be going with the guy that tends to do better on the judges' cards. Makes sense. Which is good in this case because Means is actually the underdog in this. He is at plus 154 right now. Griffin is at minus 189. Like I said, they're pretty much dead even on paper. Why is Griffin a huge favorite in this? There's no reason. They're also almost the same age. They're only like 3 years difference. They're both mid to late 30s. They're even in pretty much every single way, other than the fact that Means tends to win on the cards and Griffin tends to lose close ones on the cards. That is enough for me to pick Means on this one. And I don't see any other reason. I don't see a reason really to go in the other direction. So for me, plus 154 on the underdog, I mean, the value is there. It's clearly dead even. Why not go with the underdog even based on the price alone? So that's the way I'm going with it. Not just because of the underdog price, but also, like I said, because he tends to win those decisions. So I'm going with Tim Means plus 154. The over-under is heavily favored to go the distance. Over-under 2.5 minus 163 is the favored one on that one. So that's how I'm going with it on this one. Like I said, it's a really close one. And there's a lot of really close ones on this card. So you're going to hear me say that for pretty much every single matchup. And that continues in the next one. Calvin Kattar, Arnold Allen, the main event. It is almost dead even on the odds here. Seriously, it could not be much closer. And for a good reason. I mean, Kattar, we just saw him. Actually, no. What did we just see? I was going to say he destroyed that guy in the last one, but no, it wasn't. Giga Chikadze. I mean, yeah, I remember that. I think that his last fight. I can't even remember what it is. Oh yeah, no, that's right. His last fight was Josh Emmett. And that is why I'm going in the direction that I'm going. Because yes, Kattar had that absolutely incredible performance against Giga Chikadze. And that is no small feat. You should still be impressed by that. But then he lost to Josh Emmett in a 5-round fight when we know that Josh Emmett slows down, and he's also not really the most active striker. And he still lost. And to be honest, I actually don't think he lost. I kind of think Kattar won that. But still, he still lost on the card. So it was still that close. Whereas Arnold Allen is undefeated in the UFC at 9-0 in the UFC, and he's 18-1. Even based on that alone, you should probably be headed in that direction. But not only that, he beat Sadiq Youssef, who I think is also one of the top prospects, and also, obviously, as we saw in the last one, knocked out Dan Hooker, which is also no small feat, even though, yes, he was super drawn out. Yeah. Shouldn't have been fighting at 145. We know that, whatever, but he still knocked him out. Like, still a big deal. But anyway, what pushes me in that Allen direction, yes, you've got the statistics part of it. Yes, of course, he's undefeated in the UFC. He's 18-1. Kattar is also, he just lost. So even that already should have you going in the Allen direction. But not only that, the style really favors Allen in this one, because he thrives against strikers. I don't think he's ever even, well, I mean, he's 18-1. Let's be honest. He hasn't lost really at all anyway, but he does, people like that do better against strikers. If we were talking about Arnold Allen going against Iavloyev or somebody like that, we'd be having a different conversation. But Arnold Allen is an absolutely incredible striker, but he's also well-rounded enough that he could start giving Kattar some problems in the other areas as well. And that is what separates the two, which to me is giving him that boost. And exactly because of what happened in that Emmett fight, because that's how Emmett was winning. He made it a little bit different. He also gave Kattar some problems, to the point where, like I said, he won 3 kind of the rounds on the cards. And here, I think that's what Allen's going to do too. He's going to win 3 or 4 of the rounds on the cards. Kattar's going to win a good one there. But that'll be it. Kattar's going to struggle getting his game going because Arnold Allen is just that good. He's just that good. So that's how I'm seeing it. Allen by decision. And the odds are dead even. Like I said, Kattar -110, Allen -113. Dead even. It's a pick'em fight. You got to go with Arnold Allen, though. There's just, statistically speaking, there's just so much more going in that direction. But also, based on what we've seen too, especially with Josh Emmett and Calvin Kattar in the last matchup, I think you got to go with Allen. He's also, by the way, younger. He's also, I think, like 5 years younger than him. So he's also got that as well for him going too. So just a lot of small things going in that Allen direction that have solidified that for me. Then you've got the over-under. I mean, we've talked about this stat before. There's only one fight. Oh, actually, no, that's not true anymore, because we saw Yair and Ortega. I was going to say there was only one fight in the past couple years with top 10 featherweights that has ended in a finish, and that was the Korean Zombie against Volkanovski. Other than that, we haven't seen a finish out of anybody in the top 10, except for, of course, then what happened, which was disgusting, to Ortega. That was such bullshit. But anyway, so except for that now. So yeah, I mean, statistically speaking, once again, you're going to be seeing a decision. Also, these are 2 more so decision guys. They don't want to gas themselves out and get finished themselves in a 5-round fight like this. So again, makes a lot of sense. We're going with a decision. I think that's the pretty clear way to go. And that is it for the main card. I do have 2 more that I'm going to talk about, 2 prelims, and that'll be it. We'll just blaze through them here. Roman Dolidze, Phil Hawes. Another really close one, of course. I actually had Roman Dolidze when I first saw this, and then I thought about it more, and I was like, I think Phil Hawes actually makes a lot more sense on this one. Where are the odds at right now? Oh, they're pretty close. It was a tough one to pick. It was a really tough one to pick. Um, but the level of competition for Phil Haas has been much higher. Um, really, his only loss recently was Chris Curtis, and that makes sense. Chris Curtis is really good. He's also just really good on the feet, and that was the problem. Haas got a little too reckless and got finished on the feet by Chris Curtis there. Because it's really the fight IQ for Haas. He's got all the talent. He really does. He's got the talent to be top 15, maybe even top 10. He's that good. But doesn't really have the fight IQ for whatever reason that is. I don't know. I hope he gets it together. I'm a fan of him because he does have that talent, but that's where he struggles right now. Roman Dolidze, I don't know. He just doesn't have. I feel like he should be good, but he just doesn't have any statement wins yet. I mean, he does have the last win, but I don't want to say it was a fluke that he knocked out Dawkins in a couple minutes, but it kind of was. It was a really weird knockout in a really weird position it was just bizarre to watch because it was even like, did he just get knocked? Like, what just happened? That was really weird. So, yeah, I don't know. It was just a strange thing. And he doesn't really have any other big wins. Whereas Haas has a win over Imavov, Malkoon, Darren Wynn, and also Dawkins. So I don't know. I don't know what to think here. But I'm just going based on what I've been seeing that Haas is extremely well-rounded and extremely talented. So I'm going in that direction by decision. Could he get a finish? Yes. Dolidze's never been finished though. So I don't know about that. So yeah, I just think it's going to be close and entertaining. I just don't really know which way to go for this one yet. But I would say the safer bet is Haas, and that is probably why he is the favorite at minus 184. Dolidze plus 145. Will I be putting that in a parlay? Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm on the fence about that part of it. Over under 2.5. Minus 105 for over. Under is at minus 125. Like I said, you're probably going to be seeing a decision. I mean, neither one of them really gets finished. I think both of them, I mean, yeah, I was going to say both of them were a fluke, but Dolidze I don't think has ever been finished. And Haas got a little too reckless with Curtis because I would have expected that to have been a decision, but he got too reckless and got finished. So I would say a decision is the much safer bet on here. And at minus 105 makes sense. Final one that I'm going to talk about. Another one. Like there's so many dead even ones on this. Andre Arlovsky, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Another long one. I don't know what to think about this. I really don't, because Arlovsky has won his last 4, and they've all been over impressive people for the most part. Whereas Rogerio de Lima lost his last one, but also destroyed Ben Rothwell and Maurice Green. So, it's such a tough one. And especially since Arlovsky has not been getting convincing wins, he's been edging ahead in these razor thin decisions. And I do mean razor thin because 2 of them were split decisions. And honestly, I thought they were going to go the other direction. That's how close they were. I just don't know. I mean, again, they're also just like before, just like we saw actually with Tim Means and Max Griffin. I had to remember the names for a sec. They're older, and they're both older. They're both the similar kind of age, and they both have a similar kind of experience. So I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know how this is going to go down. The only thing that's got me going in this direction is that he keeps winning. Arlovsky keeps winning. And maybe it's not the prettiest way of winning, but he's consistently winning over and over and over again over some pretty impressive guys. And Marcos Rogerio de Lima hasn't really shown that. So I'm going to be going with Arlovsky by decision, because that's what he's been doing. He's clearly the smarter, more experienced fighter in this. So that's the way I'm going with it. But like I said, I mean, again, this is another bizarre, like it really, really could go either way. Like literally anything can happen kind of matchup. And there's a few of those on this card. So I just don't know what to expect. But based on what we've seen, that Andrei Arlovsky is a master of decisions, I've got to go in that direction, which he is a pretty significant underdog right now. So maybe we're going to be cashing in a lot of money on this. I don't know. We'll see. But like I said, it just makes more sense on paper to pick Andrei Arlovsky on this one. Plus 190. Plus 190 for Arlovsky. That's the way I'm going with it. If you think DeLima is the safer one, sure, go for it. But like I said, they are completely dead even. So why not even go with the underdog in this case as well too? And especially since, like I said, he does tend to win those decisions. I don't know, not crazy. The over-under is at 2.5. So they really are thinking that this is going to be a decision. Minus 140 for over 2.5. I think that's pretty fair. Yeah, I don't know. That's the way I'm going with it. But yeah, a lot of weird ones today. That is it for that. I will quickly give you my parlays and then I will get the hell out of here. Rodriguez in the first fight. I can't even remember what Christian Rodriguez. I had to look that up here. Christian Rodriguez minus 400. Easy choice. Chase Hooper for the first time, I would say, is actually getting a pretty easy matchup for him. So I'm going with Chase Hooper on this. Chase the Dream Hooper. Love that guy. Even though I don't like his fighting style, because I watched it and I think, oh my God, this should not work. He should be getting knocked out immediately. But anyway, he is really good on the ground though. And that's where he's going to win this one for sure. So Rodriguez, Hooper, parlay. Jun-Young Park. I honestly don't even think I'm not even sure if he's going to win this one. So I'm not even going to touch Jun-Young Park on this one. Obviously not doing it for the next one after that. That's the Arlovsky DeLima one. Haas, minus 180. You could definitely throw Haas in one of them. Jacoby, for sure. Throwing that in all day long. Cortez Acosta over Vandera, I would say minus 209. That's pretty fair. And that's probably about it. I mean, I just don't like these are some weird fights this week. There's going to be a lot of underdogs winning. I can tell you that, because this is one of those cards that is an absolute nightmare for people betting, not just for people like me trying to figure out how to bet, but even just people betting just normally with, their standard kind of bet things. This is not one of those cards that's going to be good for you. This is a weird card. I'm just telling you that straight up. This is a tough card to bet on. So yeah, bet at your own caution on this one. This is a weird one. That being said, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, everybody. On all the other stuff, all the other sports are on Area 51. And then down below is all my socials. That's YouTube, Twitter, Insta, all that kind of nice stuff. Like I said, I will be fixing the way I do these things next week. So it'll have a lot more flow to it, I would say. And hopefully shorter as well too, because I am starving right now. My food has been waiting for me. It's also probably cold. I am starving. But yeah, I'm even starting to lose my train of thought. I'm so hungry. So yeah, that's it for me. Follow down below. I will see you next time. Next week, of course, we've got UFC Vegas 63, what we're talking about now. Then we've got, I want to say that's actually it. Well, I mean, of course, and then the next UFC event, which I honestly cannot remember what it is. Nope, drawing a blank. I don't remember. So that's what's next week anyway. So it's a nice shorter week anyway, to get ourselves back into the rhythm of things anyway. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.
Sensational.